So Dan, I got these two products. They're in the same product niche. The criteria is excellent. And the differentiation on them, the opportunity to differentiate them, to make them better, is really, really good.
Yeah.
But how do I determine which product to go with? Like, how do I choose?
Yeah, with these, what I would say is differentiation is obviously key, but the key in choosing between stalemated differentiation products, like you've come to a stalemate or a brick wall on them being the same or having the same differentiation potential.
Okay.
Then what I would do is look at the nature of that differentiation, because we're in a very visual realm.
Right.
So when you go to like an offline store, you use taste and smell and touch, and you're able to go in the physical
I can
store.
experience it personally. Right.
Yeah, but in the online realm, what do you use? What senses?
Just my eyes. I can look at it. That's
Sight.
it. Right.
So visuals are super important. So when you're looking at between this product and this product, what I would be asking is, how does that differentiation lend itself to visual representation? Like, is that going to jump off the front page and show its value, the value we've added?
So you mean there's some differentiation that is not as visual on a picture, like the featured photo, as others?
Exactly.
Even though it's a really good differentiation, that would mean a lot to them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're looking at spy cameras,
right?
And like, for example, if we took the standard spy camera, which is on like most of the results, and we just improved the app,
right?
Let's say on this hidden camera, the spy camera, we might add like great features to the app, but think about on the main image when we go
it's
to
hard to see that.
And whereas this one, if we went and found a brand new type of spy camera, a new version, and we perhaps had like, I don't know, a docking station or some accessory for hidden cameras.
Right.
That is very visually appealing and representable. On our main image, it's going to be really, in an instant, people are going to see how our product's so much better.
So even at just a glance at that photo, I can tell immediately there's something better. That's so interesting, because like here I am focusing on, man, this is going to be so much better, but if people can't see it, then it's going to affect their desire to buy it.
Exactly, and especially as it gets more and more competitive, that's what I'd be looking at. I mean, that's
this is very good.
That's the product I would choose here, because when looking at the other, it's not as visually representable. You can differentiate it, but not in the way that's going to be as visually expressive and impactful as this other one.
So I got to differentiate, not just realistically, but visually.
Yeah.
And it has to be a differentiation that people can quickly see with their eye.
Yeah.
It's super obvious.
And that's going to help you choose between those. So for that reason, I'll choose the one where we can visually differentiate most.
Gotcha. Okay.
So another big thing I would say with that is when you have that impact on the main image, you're drawing so much attention, you're upping click-through rate.
Okay.
So you're getting more clicks, more of those, just people generally browsing for, let's say, spy cameras are actually on your listing.
Yeah.
And also, because you've got this new value, this real visual differentiation, which is coming across powerfully, you have high conversion rate as well.
So when you say click-through rate, do you mean if I search a keyword and I get that first page of search results?
Yes. All the
if I click
cameras
on one of those, that affects my click-through rate?
Yes. So that is your click-through rate. And the more clicks you're getting, the higher your click-through rate. So if 100 people type in spy cameras and they see all the spy cameras on the front page, and 10 of them click on your spy camera because you visually expressed or chosen one you've differentiated in a very visual way, then you have 10% click-through rate, and you can build that higher and higher with the more impact you have in that main image. But it does come down to product choice and product building.
Dan, I am 1000% committed to making this work for me and my family. Like, I really want to make it work, and I will do it. But one thing that makes me nervous is the competition. So what are you doing to minimize the competition? Like, what can I do? Because there are so many people joining Amazon.
Yeah, this year I think the biggest thing you can do to minimize competition is work on pricing and price strategy. So there are other methods. You could do things like brand registry, which only 2.6% of sellers actually do.
Right.
But I really think you need to focus on pricing and building a strategy there. So to emphasize why I believe so much in higher prices, let me ask you a couple questions.
Sure.
Number one, what price range do new sellers often get told to sell at? What price of product should you sell as a new seller?
Most of the YouTube videos out there are telling me between $15 and $25, which I like because it probably means it won't be very expensive for me to buy.
Yeah, and they also promote this because it's an impulse buy range, right? That's what consumers buy often.
Right, like, oh, it's not that much money, so I'll buy it quickly and don't evaluate it too much.
Okay, so 15 to 25. And second question would be, what MOQ, what order quantity are new sellers told to order on their first order generally?
Usually like 1,000. Like 1,000 units, sometimes 500, but usually like around 1,000 to make sure you get the price per unit low enough.
Yeah, 500 to, I would agree, 500 to 1,000.
Yeah.
And then how much capital would you say a new seller on average has in order to place that first order?
Probably $3,000.
3,000?
For most people.
Okay. So when you think about that, if all these new sellers, of which there are many, we actually have 3,000 sellers join Amazon every single day, and there's about a 60% retention rate a year later. So if we just average it out, we've got like 2,000 new sellers, real new sellers joining per day.
Okay.
So if you think about that, if they all follow either common sell price instruction of 15 to 25, like you said, then they're selling products at 15 to 25.
Right.
But also, if they leave that on the table and they follow common MOQ guidelines, and they only have $3,000 to spend, think about that. If they're spending $3,000 on 1,000 units, that's a landed cost of $3 per unit, which is super cheap. If they even spend $3,000 on 500 units, it's a landed cost of $6 per unit. It's still very, very low. That could be manufacturing of $5 and shipping of $1.
Right.
So that cost of product's not going to sell for more than $25. It's a cheaper product. So in both scenarios, you have the majority of these new sellers all selling $20 products or thereabouts. So your biggest opportunity this year is to break that mold, start thinking dynamically, start thinking differently, start, approaching your business differently and selling for a higher price. Stop following this herd who are all going to be selling the same price products.
So you're basically saying I need to move myself out of where everyone else is selling. So I'm not really just differentiating my product like you said and how the product appears in the main image like you said, but I'm differentiating my strategy. So it's almost like I'm taking my business and I'm putting myself amongst a smaller group of sellers because most people are thinking I'm going to go in at a really low price.
Exactly.
I mean, this makes so much sense, but there's still a problem because higher priced products sell less.
Well, they don't. In short, we actually averaged the top 5 best-selling items on the entire platform.
Yeah.
And take a guess what number we came up with.
30?
In fact, it was $62.
Seriously?
The average of the top 5 selling products on Amazon is $62. And that brings up a really good point. What we originally thought to be that impulse range, that impulsive buying range, is actually much higher than $20, $25.
It's so interesting. Maybe because more and more people are buying on Amazon, so they're more used to it now and they're not as nervous about buying online, where back then it was more novel. So what you're saying is, I'm not only am I decreasing my competition by increasing or selling something that sells at a higher cost, not only am I taking advantage of the fact that there's fixed costs that don't go up when my product is more expensive, but I'm also still in the impulse range at a higher price, which means I'm going to make more money, have less competition. That makes total sense. But the cost is still too high if I'm purchasing 1,000 units. So if I'm selling a product at $60, let's just say the product itself to manufacture costs 15 or 10 instead of $5 or $8. That's really, really expensive.
It would be, and that to most is a barrier. They don't look at that because of that. So when they think about common order quantities they have to order, let's say they have to order 1,000 units, then it makes it unattainable to perhaps do a product that has a landed cost of $20, because you know, first order $20,000 is a lot of money.
Correct.
But you do not have to do 1,000 units.
Really?
You don't have to do 500 units. You can do as many units as you see fit. This is your business. You can make this work any possible way.
So you think the suppliers, if it's a higher cost item, then that MOQ, that minimum order quantity, actually goes down. So maybe I could do 200, 250, but then I might run out of my inventory because it's going to sell fast. Then what do? Now my business is kind of stopped.
That's a really good point, and you're 100% right. They will offer lower MOQs, but here's the thing. Every day of the week, I will take the situation of my product selling so well that it runs out. I run out of stock and be out of stock for 2-3 weeks on an item. I would much rather have that scenario than be stuck for 6-7 months with hundreds of units because I sold at the same price level as all of these other sellers. So in short, I would much rather do a lower order quantity, run out of stock if that's the case, and then reorder and start managing that inventory better. But I would start with lower order quantities, in a way reducing your risk.
Right.
And there are so many other benefits to higher price as well.
That begins to make sense in my mind because I remember someone talking about movement is life and you want your inventory moving, and something about storage fees going up after 6 months.
Yes.
Like, what is the point of 2,000 units sitting in Amazon's fulfillment center and it's sitting there and that money is frozen and I can't use it? So this is beginning to make sense.
That's a really good point too on the storage fees, as you're reducing your risk of that too, because you know you're probably going to move through 200, 300 units much quicker than 1,000 units.
Right. So let me ask you this, Dan. You see here I have my market, but I'm still not convinced on the higher price strategy. So could you just explain a little more why a higher priced item is really profitable?
Sure. So I think the best way to explain this is if you imagine having a price point of say $50. Let's say we sold spy cameras, okay? Or hidden cameras, or nanny cameras as they're also known.
Right.
And let's say they're exactly the same size. They're packaged in the same exact box. They're the same weight, but they have different features, and one is a $50 option and one over here is a $20 option.
Got it.
Now, there are certain costs in our business model which are in fact fixed.
Right.
They do not correlate with that actual price level.
Right.
So imagine this, $50, $20.
Okay.
And now if we take off the logistics cost of getting that from say China to the US or China to the UK.
Yes.
They're the same size. So let's say it's $2 coming off each price.
So the shipping is still the same.
The international shipping.
I always assume a higher cost product is going to cost more to ship.
No.
But that doesn't make sense.
No.
Because if it's the same size and weight, it's going to be the same shipping cost.
Yeah, so we take $2 off each price.
Okay.
Then you've also got, for example, Amazon FBA fulfillment fees.
Right.
Now, FBA fulfillment fees, again, are based on size, not price. So they are going to come off the product. And this might be, for example, $6 per product, FBA fees coming off that price. And lastly, remember, we're doing spy cameras.
Right.
So these, whether it's a $50 or $20 product, they're aiming to convert on the same keywords.
Okay.
And so they're going to bid, they're going to advertise on the same exact keywords, meaning the cost per click is probably still the same for them, right? If they're both bidding on nanny cam.
Yeah, because the keyword has nothing to do with the price of the product. It just has to do with how competitive or how many people are trying to bid on it.
Exactly. So let's say a $1 cost per click comes off that as well. Now remember, we had a $50 and $20 price point.
Correct.
And we're deducting $9 of fixed cost from each.
Yeah.
And you can see instantly on our $20 lower priced item, which would also be more competitive, on that one, those fixed costs represent almost 50% of our total revenue, our total sale price.
Right.
On the $50 option, that represents a fifth, 20% of the entire sale price and revenue. the same fixed costs. So you can
So
see
the margins are so much fatter.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. You never even think about it. You never hear people talking about this, but that makes total sense.
Yeah. Over here you're left with $11.
Right.
And over here you're left with $41.
Okay. I like this, but here's the thing. I'm down to these two products. Both match all the criteria for potential product. Both have the same differentiation potential and the same profit potential, but I feel like I'm hitting a brick wall. Like okay, so they're so even. How do I know what to do? Do you ever feel like your brain becomes constipated and you just like, how do I make a decision?
So this is common, to get stuck if everything feels equal, which is unlikely, but if you've gone through everything we've spoken about to this point and you're still stuck. Another thing I would consider looking at these products, when you're comparing, I can see here you're comparing a tourniquet,
right,
also called like a tourniquet, like a medical device,
right,
and also a spy camera, our nanny camera.
Yeah.
So in terms of this, another thing I would look at, which stands out to me here, is customer search terms.
Okay.
So the tourniquet, this keyword or this product has very, very limited keywords. How many ways would you be able to search for a tourniquet? Let's say you needed a tourniquet today.
Yeah.
What keywords would you go type into Amazon?
Handy tourniquet?
You
Med
wouldn't.
tourniquet?
You wouldn't type that.
I'm being really creative here.
Yeah. So you can see it's very, very limited.
Yeah.
Maybe tourniquet or tourniquets,
right,
or a brand and then tourniquets. But
there's like very, very few options. Even when you ask me, I'm sitting here, I'm scraping. What else would I search? Yeah.
Very, very limited. And on the nanny cam side, I've even used multiple words to describe it today. But you have nanny cam.
Without even thinking about it, you did it. Yeah.
Hidden camera,
right,
spy camera,
security.
Exactly.
There's so many.
And then you have all different versions like spy pen or spy plug or spy clock,
or the camera could go and be embedded in a different kind of product. Yeah, I got you.
So there are many different keywords there, and often when you have a lot of keyword variation, all those different keywords, you also have product variation, like we just spoke about: plugs, clocks, pens. It's all this product variation. Now, the best way I can explain why that is important and why you want to have more keywords rather than less with the tourniquet is like this. When you run ads, which you will do on Amazon at some point, PPC ads, it's like a auction. And Amazon is like your auctioneer, auctioning off spots.
You mean like one of those guys that says 21, 21, 21, man,
exactly,
sold to the man in the blue coat, $21.
Exactly. And the man in the blue coat is the seller amongst a whole lot of other sellers. They are bidding for keyword placement. So Amazon says, hey, we've got this keyword tourniquet. And all these sellers are selling tourniquets.
Right.
What are you going to do? Let's say you're selling a tourniquet for the first time, and you know that customers mainly only type in tourniquet to find that product.
That means I can only bid on that keyword.
Yeah. So when it comes time to bid for that, remember, the higher you bid, the higher your ad goes.
There's 1,000 people bidding, the price is going to go up big time.
So the cost per click is massive in that market. But when we look at the hidden camera or nanny camera or spy camera, what happens is, because we got so many different keywords and also a bit of product variation, what ends up happening is sellers move their bids around. They spread out their bids and bid on different keywords.
Oh, so it drops the price. So maybe I could focus on a medium cost or lower cost and get my sales through there, because my advertising cost of sale goes down as a result.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, and so you might, let's say you did a spy pen that you can clip on your shirt, etc. Then what you would do is focus very heavily on those types of keywords, and other sellers would focus more on their types of keywords. But also, because you've got standardized different keywords there, you've got nanny cam, hidden cam, spy cam. Sellers bid a little bit less on all of them, because it's not so important to show up on that one that has all the traffic.
Like, it gives me all these different niches. I can focus on the nanny version, or I can focus on the hidden version. It's like, it gives me more niches where I can carve out my own the riches are in the niches.
Yeah, and you've got enough customer traffic on all these different keywords.
Yeah.
To justify spreading the bids out a bit. It's
This
not
is really
all
good.
on one.
Yeah, this is really good. This is so freaking motivating because you're giving me specific things I can do, I can immediately apply, I can make money, and that money can create freedom.
Yeah,
Which is amazing.
100%. Is that all of your questions for today?
Yeah, I think you really answered them well. I'm ready to do this, man.
I'm ready to do this too.
Thank you. I'm so glad we met.
100%.